Now to the world of fashion and a real-life example of the American dream. From Michelle Obama and Kamala Harris to the Princess of Wales, designer Prabal Gurung has dressed some of the most famous women in the world. Following a childhood growing up queer in Nepal and India, his talent saw him skyrocket to the top of the New York fashion scene. But despite his success, Gurung faced discrimination, being told, "You don't look American." He joins Hari Srinivasan to discuss his new memoir and how far he's come.
Bianna, thanks. Prabal Gurung, thanks so much for joining us. Your book, Walk Like a Girl, the title is a phrase that really was used as kind of a slur against you for so long. Why put this as the title of the book? What does this phrase mean to you now?
You know, when I was growing up, surrounded by a really strong mother and sister and strong women overall, and even my, superhero, my favorite superhero was Wonder Woman, I never thought emulating women or the way they were, the complexities was anything bad. In fact, I thought it was empowering. So when I went into the real world and the way it was thrown at me, I understood the intention behind it and the impact, the negative impact about it. But I felt like, the term walk like a girl, which is used, pejoratively often to diminish and demean someone, I wanted to take that term and transform it to a term and phrase of power, courage, and empowerment. And simply because, I believe to walk like a girl in this world is to walk through softness and defiance and complexities and, courage and vulnerability. And I felt like it's also this way of saying, I belong here, that unapologetically loving yourself and owning your space and having the humility to be curious and understand, but also, not shrinking oneself. Because I think it's important to understand that you don't need outside validation, that you are worthy on your own. The space that you occupy is enough.
You start this book with some easily, describable as painful parts of your childhood growing up in Nepal. You knew you were different. You were trying on your mom's lipstick and in secret your cousin's dresses.
Yeah.
And this was in your siblings and your mother were firmly in support of you,
Yeah.
but your larger family and community was not. And
Yes.
I wonder, they didn't really understand you. So give us an example. What were the consequences?
I would want to say there was something subtle about it. There was nothing subtle now. They were really point blank made me say stuff like, "Oh, you're a pansy, you're this, you're a girl, you cry like a girl, you walk like a girl, you talk like a girl." And it was it was so confusing. As I said earlier, for me, there was nothing wrong with that. So it was really confusing. But then it got into, when I went to school, because I did not fit into this mold, the narrow description of what a boy should look like. So that really bothered. And as we know, in this world, the people in power oftentimes, or the majority, can't see anyone who's different than them. It really threatens their own existence. And my existence, that was unapologetic and just like unabashedly myself, really bothered them, because someone like me who wasn't, let's say, who looked like them should be shrinking, right? But I wasn't. I really felt like the love and the acceptance that I got from my siblings and my mother back home empowered me to have a voice. But then it turned into physical beatings, bullying. And to be completely honest, when I look back at it, the physical aspect of it, you can still handle it because, you kind of learn how to protect yourself. I didn't know every nook and corner. I didn't know where the next punch was coming at me. I didn't know that. But you kind of train yourself. And that's a trauma that, as I always feel like, as a marginalized person, anyone can understand that. You're always in that, flight or fight mode. But it's the impact and the volley of words, that negative words that come at you. The impact of it is it really sinks in and stays with you, and then your body registers it. The physical wound and everything, it can heal, and that is what I was really initially not understanding. But when it got to me and stayed with me for a very long time, it took me a while to get to a place when I was like, you know what, I'm going to work on it. The world says that I don't fit in. I'm going to do my own thing. And I used to tell my mother, she reminds me, I was to say something like, Mom, I know my worth. The world just needs to catch up to it. I don't know how. I must have been a precocious child, but, that's how I look at it,
So you go through school in Nepal and in India. You come to New York. You're kind of learning the ropes of fashion. You're interning. You're going out at night, and you start realizing that there's still this sort of sense of otherness. There's a quote here. You're beautiful. I don't even think of you as Asian. Even more ridiculous was whenever whoever hurled the insult would follow it up with, "Oh, lighten up. You know I love Asians," or "I love sushi," or "I love Indian food." I cannot tell you how many times someone has said to me, "I'm normally not into Asians, but you're attractive." You were still an outsider, even though, the place, relative to the place you came from, this was probably a very liberating environment, but here you are finding yourself, wait, what happened?
That's the thing, the complex story about America is that, I, to me, America to me was this like a dream made in Technicolor. And this was New York City was where all my heroes were, like Debbie Harry, Basquiat, Andy Warhol, Marc Jacobs, Madonna, and living in East Village. And you look at all these colorful misfits, and I was like, when I got a glimpse of New York through, few magazines or glimpses that I saw, it felt like home to me. It was beckoning to me when I arrived here. And also, let's just not forget, America has this incredible PR pitch about everyone is welcome here, you know? And the truth of the matter is it's very complex. Everyone is welcome as long as you follow the rules within the boundary, the lines, and as long as you are in close proximity to how they behave or how they look. The minute you are different, you are directly or indirectly aware of your difference. And to me, it was really baffling in the beginning because it was like, all right, wait a second, is this okay for them to say this, And then I realized, I thought it was an isolated thing for me, but it's like, it is every person of color, every marginalized person go through this in some way or the other. There's so many times my friends, they tell me incidents when they're in their office, they open Indian food and people will be like, what's that smell? Versus what's this fragrance? It's those words, it's like, and so I always felt like that's why words have power. And that with the word from smell to a fragrance goes from a tolerance to celebration. So all that stuff mattered. And you come here and you realize that, oh wow, the world that I thought I would be completely accepted, it is not accepting me. But then what it does, I'm also incredibly grateful for this country, because in this country is where you can question and write a book like this, when you can question all these ideas and norms that are so preconceived and rooted in this, I would say, deep colonial beliefs. That's what I feel,
There's this idea that America has of the overnight success, right? And by the time you're pulling off your kind of magical first show, it's almost like an entire village, a community of people you had collected along the way over years and years of doing all the hard work, really just came out in belief and support of you. But, I wonder about this idea that we have that, oh, well, it's just, this kind of moment and he just arrived and it just happened for him.
Yeah, it was absolutely. When I started my brand, it was deep in recession in fall 2009. Bill Blass had closed. I was looking for a job. I went to a headhunters, and the reaction that I was getting was, "Oh, he's not talented enough, or he's not right for us," And so I was like, "All right, you know what? Let me just give it a shot. And if it doesn't work out, I'll blame it on recession." I went on unemployment. That's the beauty of this country is you have to have that's the thing about America is opportunity is just an idea waiting to happen. The luck is just an idea waiting to happen. I had this idea and I went on unemployment. That gave me the strength. Okay. I moved from a massive apartment to a tiny little studio in East Village, right in front of Hell's Angels. My friend's studio, apartment became my studio, and, all my friend's gallery became my show space. Everyone came together. But at the same time, just to see this collective force of people coming because I had a belief that I had a story to tell, And as I said, and maybe perhaps the fact that I come from from Nepal and India, that continent, I didn't expect everything to happen in one go. I was very patient about the fact that, I'm okay with building it slowly and surely. But then, luck had a different thing for me, and it got on the cover of Women's Wear Daily. Zoe's wore it, and it just took off immediately. And to be completely honest, I was just waiting. I was hoping for a line in Women's Wear Daily to be mentioned about my collection. I got the cover, and that completely changed my life.
So there is an excerpt in the book about your vision board, what you had kind of set out as the goals for yourself. And it says, start a brand, check. Get in a few stores, check. Make a growth plan, check. Dress Oprah, check. Michelle Obama, check. Get in Vogue, done. Apply for a CDFA Vogue Fashion Fund, win a Vogue Fashion Fund, check, check. Go to the Met Gala several times, check. Become the creative director of Chanel, maybe that's still out there. Start a foundation. I mean, when I look at this, and I guess this is a question for maybe to abstract for people beyond just the fashion industry, you have accomplished most of what's on this list, right? And I guess my question is not just what's your next vision board, but how do you find your why?
It's simple. It was my mother. My mother has been my roadmap for strength and resilience and everything that I do. She's been my North Star. Anytime that something's happened, I'll call her and I'll be like, hey mom, this is happening. This is so-and-so celebrity is like wearing my stuff. And, she's always been someone who's celebrates with me, but also says, I still remember the thing that changed for me was when she said to me after I dressed Michelle Obama, she said to me, I'm glad that happened because it was her idea. She was the one who planted the seed of dressing someone like Michelle Obama because she felt that she, former First Lady Michelle Obama was the one that I was describing in the women that I wanted to dress. And then when it happened, she said to me, the success no longer is yours. It just doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the country, the continent, every marginalized person. Now, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to be keeping it for yourself, or is it going to be impacting everyone else? And that's when our foundation, Shiksha Foundation in Nepal, we started that with my siblings and my friends. And my why came not because, I want to be XYZ $1 million companies, or I want to be on. Those are all important goals. But my thing was, am I making someone feel seen? Through my work? Am I making even one person? Because I know what it feels like to turn the pages of magazines, turn on television, or look at the cover of a book and see empty mirrors reflecting back. Nothing that looks like you. Nothing is, that resonates with you. So my why is less ego-driven, but rather how do I serve the community, the people around me, and even far away, because I think at the end of the day, that's our job as humans. We're not living just for ourselves. We are vessel for us, servitude and service. That's what I believe in.
You've been an outspoken advocate for inclusivity and diversity in fashion and design, and you've been active in political campaigns, and you've gotten pushback from members of the fashion world saying, oh, look, this is Prabal just looking for another publicity cycle, stay in your lane, work on your clothes, don't do this. And I wonder, as you see the recent administration's rollbacks on so many of the things that you hold dear, how do you stay engaged? How do you continue your work? What do you see as your place or your responsibility?
I think for anyone who looks like me or who don't look like the majority, our biggest job is to make sure we don't give in to cynicism. We acknowledge all the trauma and everything that we go through, have an open communication within the community and outside of it, but show up unapologetic as ourselves. Because the biggest resistance to the patriarchy or to the majority, to everything out there that is resisting our existence is showing up unapologetically, unabashedly ourselves. That is the first step towards that. Sometimes I think back about that collection, the Who Gets to Be American, and it's 5 years later, we're still having that conversation, And I think about the promise and the hope of let's say, the Obama era, the Obama years, brought about America, and, and how it gave us hope. And the thing about what oftentimes America forgets is what happens in America has a ripple effect down globe, like across the world. And so through my runway shows, where the people I dress, for instance, when we do the Met Gala, people I dress, people I take as my guests, it's very diverse, it's colorful, it's like exactly like my dinner table. And that's what I want to show on a runway, simply because if it is possible within the confines of my house, it is possible in the outside world also. This colorful, diverse, incredibly amazing people. And the more we see us, the world sees us, the less afraid we are of each other. That's how I look at it. And going back to what you asked about, mentioned about how people were saying, oh, it's for publicity or this, I always say, for me, it's my life. It is who I am. It has been my existence. And it's not just a moment, it's a movement. And it's more than a movement. It is the way who we all exist.
You go out of your way to say, look, I'm not just in this for the cloth. I'm trying to tell stories with the types of clothing and the fashion that I'm creating here. I want to tell especially the stories of Nepal. How do you figure out what stories to tell?
It's instinct. The beauty of being a creative person is an artist is your instincts. I feel like we get the opportunity to hone in our instincts, and I react to not just things that that are beautiful, whether it's paintings or listen to that music, but it's also political stuff. I'll never forget when I did my 10-year anniversary collection. It was after a meeting with a potential investor who asked me what the brand stands for. And I said, I want to create a new Americana, because Americana for the longest period of time has been dictated by these great designers like Donna Karan, Ralph Lauren, and Calvin, but the America that I see is immensely and amazingly colorful. And I want to bring that to the forefront and create that new version of Americana. And I'll never forget when he turned to me and said, well, you don't look American. How are you going to define America? Mm-hmm. And I said to him, I am an American citizen. I pay my taxes. I make more than 90% of my clothes in America. I am engaged politically and in civil, everything through my foundation, through everything that I do. And it is still not enough. What you're saying is I'm not white. That's what you're trying to say. And he kept quiet. I'll never forget, needless to say, I didn't get that investment, obviously, but I remember getting in the cab and I was thinking, will it ever be enough? That triggered me to do a collection called Who Gets to Be American? And that collection, my 10-year anniversary collection, informed the next year's Met Gala. And that's when Andrew Bolton, everyone's said in his notes, Prabal Gurung asked this on his runway show, and we were trying to answer this. Not that I knew that was going to have a ripple effect. Yeah, I was just reacting to something that felt not right for me, And that's how I look at it, is bringing my story from our part of the world. Is I keep on saying, for the longest period of time, we've been told East meets West. And I said, no, the narrative has to change. It's the West has to meet the East now. Because that is what needs to be done, because East has done the work. The West has to do the work now.
The memoir is called Walk Like a Girl. Author and fashion designer Prabal Gurung, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This means a lot.